I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and if you don't like the Galaxy S4 or the HTC One, perhaps you'll like the Oppo Find 5. You won't hear much about it in the US, but it's a popular smartphone in other markets. Let's take a look at it in the full video review of the Oppo Find 5. It's hard to find in the US, but the Oppo Find 5, the name at least, is a known name in the United States, but it's not known for smartphones. Oppo is known for Blu-ray players in the US, but they do some smartphones. This one fresh in from China, so special thanks to our friends at Oppo. The PR team was kind enough to send over an Oppo Find 5, which has been a much talked about device from some of the trade shows, but we haven't had our hands on with it until now. Special thanks to them. Oppo Find 5, you can find it in certain markets and it packs some decent specifications. Really a beautiful device all around with a 5-inch display, which I think for a lot of devices, Galaxy S4, obviously this device, the Droid DNA, 5 inches is a nice spot between, hey, 4.7 being too small and 5.5 being entirely too big. So it's one of those phones that's still very pocketable. You can fit it in your pocket and it doesn't feel like a brick or anything abnormally big. But then you can fit it in without it being a giant tablet phone like the Galaxy Note 2 or the LG Optimus G Pro. I want to jump back for just a second though before we get into the full review and thank our partners at Best Buy Mobile. They give us devices, not the Find 5, but very similar devices, phones like the S4 or the HTC One for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working regardless of what device you get or carrier you get. They'll make sure you're set up and good to go so when you walk out the door you're taken care of and all your apps and settings are configured at Best Buy Mobile. Let's do a rundown of the specs, and I'm going to start off this review by talking about the hardware. Now, specifications wise, we're looking at a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 Pro CPU. It's got a beautiful 5-inch 1080p HD display, a 13-megapixel camera on the back. You've got a 2,500 milliamp hour non-removable battery. And then you've got this really unique combination of ports and buttons, at least the placement, I should say, of those ports and buttons. 2 gigabytes of RAM, Android 4.1 out of the box with Oppo's custom user interface. Now, one thing I have to give them huge props for, the fact that they're doing OTA updates every couple of weeks. So this phone's going to get over-the-air updates every few weeks. It's been getting those, and hopefully the Project Firefly update will come out very soon, which we've seen in some documentations on the internet. I say that like such an old man. Documentations on the internet. You get it, videos on the internet, the YouTubes. But this is the Oppo Find 5. Really a beautiful device, though. It fits really well in the hand. It's got a slightly curved back, as you can see right here, making it easier to hold in the hand both for phone calls and when you're just holding it to do a text message or something of that nature. Feels a lot, at least from the back, like the HTC One, which is the device obviously right here. Fits well in the hand. Micro USB charging port down here at the bottom right-hand spot. Volume rocker over on the right hand. Power button on the left-hand side, micro SIM card slot right up there, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and of course your Oppo logo with your camera and your flash right there on the back. So really a beautiful device, and again, the travel feels great in the hand. It's a big device, don't get me wrong, but easy to travel across the screen if you have decent-sized hands. Android 4.1 out of the box, and jumping over to software, we'll talk about what Oppo has done with this device. So, Android 4.1 out of the box. Oppo's user interface is obviously all over Android, so it's not stock by any stretch of the imagination. And out of the box, you'll see that it's pretty heavily customized. The applications look different, the fonts look different, the overall phone looks different in general, but again, I can't get over how beautiful the display is. Really a gorgeous display here, can definitely compete with the likes of the iPhone 5, the HTC One, the Galaxy S4, the Droid DNA, and all those other hot devices on the market. I do find particularly interesting, or at least a cool feature, you can have 9 home screens on this device, as you see right here, but again, Oppo has some heavy customizations, as you can see by the way that the notifications bar looks, the settings look, and more. So we'll just start here with the home button, back button, and then menu button, all capacitive down here at the bottom of the display, and you can see even just pressing menu, how it's an Oppo customized look and feel. Widgets and wallpapers here, I can swipe back and forth between those, or click I should say, and then swipe to find the widgets that I like and move to different home screens and insert those widgets as I see fit. Now, Oppo's widgets are particularly interesting. I find their widgets to look a little bit cartoonish. Now, compare that to Sense 5 or TouchWiz or LG's user interface. There are plenty of things you can say about all those user interfaces depending on what your personal preference is, but I do find it to be a little bit weird. I still can't quite figure out what this is around the clock or around some of the other widgets that they have. You can see right here in the beginning of the widgets panel things like calendar, which I'll go back and show you, contacts, as you can see right here. Two of my favorite applications, Quadrant Standard and Speed Test. Music, this one always cracks me up. We'll go in here, put the music one. So just kind of a different bubbly look and feel. It is nice, I will give you that, the ability to have widgets and customizations. And then of course from that you can select wallpapers as well and kind of knock it all out from that area. You can press and hold on the home screen and it brings it right up. Now, camera doesn't do it justice, and I know I say that all the time, but this is a gorgeous display, really, really beautiful, and that's something you're gonna notice right when you pull this phone out of the box. The display is beautiful. It is to die for, and you look at something like Gmail, and if you're somebody like me, I email a lot on the go. I'm constantly getting emails or browsing documents, and so for me, visibility matters, and I find this to be incredibly crisp text. It looks great all around, and of course, portrait to landscape transitions, as you can see right here, nice and fast thanks to the fact that this has 2 gigabytes of RAM out of the box and a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 Pro CPU. Jumping into text messaging, and you can see the icons very reminiscent of the iPhone 5 here in iOS 6 with the overall look and feel. You can fit a total of 5 down here in the notifications area, and you can move the menu and around as you see fit. So if you want a more stock looking, and I say that with kind of a grain of salt, or I say that loosely if you will, as stock as you can get, because this is not anywhere near stock Android, put the home button in the middle there, for example, and you can click. If you want more of a Samsung look and feel, you can bring the menu button over here as you see fit. But again, very cartoonish. I did find this particularly interesting as well. Take a look at applications that come out of the box like calendar and contacts. You'll notice the icons themselves are much bigger, and I'll bring it over here so you can take a look and see what I'm talking about with contacts and calendar. Very big icons, but then you scroll over here to quadrant standard and speed test, and you'll notice the gray gradient behind the icons because they're not quite big enough. So for standardization purposes, they make those slightly larger to go along with the Oppo stuff that you get out of the box. So you've got that. That's kind of an interesting feature. And then over here, a test text messaging thread. Say that 3 times fast on camera. I actually did a pretty good job with that. Text messaging. Text messaging. I can't say it. Now that I'm trying to say it, I'm having trouble saying it. Did this earlier, a test message thread. And you can see 5-inch display makes it easy to type on the display. And I find it to be an interesting experience all around. I don't know why the keyboard is not going into landscape mode. Let's see here. Thought we had this. Yeah, rotation is turned on. Not quite sure why it's doing that. Let's see here. And speaking of notification bar, you can see this. Date up top, clock up top, very similar to Android 4.1, but you do get this data widget down here in the bottom as well, which gives you data today and data this month. So we'll come down here and say the quick brown fox is happy that he has gotten some sleep. And then we'll go to landscape mode. I'm not quite sure why it's not altering over into landscape mode and text messaging, but you get the idea here. Easy to type on. The 5-inch display is nice for that, and of course you've got your options down here. Again, very heavily customized to the Oppo user interface, as you can see here in Dialer, for example. You've got your dial pad, your contacts, then of course your call log right here, and you can swipe back and forth, or you should be able to swipe between contacts, groups, and favorites. Then get to the dialer itself, dial 611, just to show you what it looks like. And then you've got your wallpaper in the background, and of course your number up top, and I can throw it into speaker pretty easily. And as you noticed, or may have noticed just there, I am having some issues with the touchscreen responsiveness. I'm hoping this gets addressed in a future update, but every now and again when I click something, it doesn't necessarily respond right away, which is a cause for concern, at least for me, somebody that's constantly typing, texting, as I'm sure you are as well. So definitely a concern. In button press just fine there, but I do see that from time to time. Press and hold home as well to access your recent applications, where I can just swipe up to remove these. So kind of reminiscent to HTC Sense version 5, but then I've got this right here where I can just click the broom, closes all my applications, and frees up some memory. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll talk about the 13 megapixel camera, and we'll run speed test using AT&T's HSPA Plus network in Dallas. This also runs T-Mobile's HSPA Plus network, I should add, because it's unlocked. We'll take a look at that along with quadrant standard tests and more in part 2 of the Oppo Find 5 video review.